7:06 p.m. And I will call the public hearing to order. Public hearing is a continuance from June 17th, the application of Fitch Family Farm. Ryan Fitch to amend annual zoning regulations to include language to regulate agritourism events. The applicant is proposing language for annual planning and zoning commission to consider that would allow for accessory agricultural related uses and non-agriculturally related uses that include but are not limited to weddings, banquets, and concerts. So at this point, John, if I'm gonna ask that you try to display version 3 on the screen there.
Version 3, hang on.
Should be, I think it was right down at the bottom of the application file.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I was looking through my archived emails. I'll get on the website in just a second.
No, it was on the website. You know, looking at the art. No, I grabbed that. It was the current applications and under the agritourism all the way down to the bottom was version 3.
Sorry, Jed. It's on Monkey Hill Road, Fitch. I'm looking at applications submitted pending, right? Or
Yep.
Pending.
And it should be top one, I think, in that file.
V3. Okay, I got you. All right, bringing it up.
Yeah, one more click. There we go. Okay, I can read that anyhow, but
Okay.
so anyhow. We've gone through a couple of versions of this already. I tweaked on it a little bit since the time we met. I sent it through Attorney Mark Branch for his review. He gave me a couple of suggestions on it. And I will go through what I have changed since the last time we gathered. But this is still Ryan's application. So your application, I'll tell you what I did to it. And probably one of the biggest changes was under the agricultural accessory uses. The last sentence there, a site plan and review is required for agricultural accessory uses. So in the last version, we didn't require anything if it was related to agricultural. I felt that was probably not the best approach. And so, we changed it to requiring a site plan for that as well. The difference between a site plan and a special permit, a site plan doesn't require the public hearing and that sort of thing. So if it's agriculturally related, like horse shows and, farm seminars and that kind of thing, site plan review. The other thing we did, in that paragraph is on the previous version, we had as an example of an agricultural accessory use, pick your own food items, strawberries, apples, Christmas trees, you name it. And I thought that was essentially farming and not agritourism. And so farming still takes no site plan review. That's allowed by right. And we took that out of there just to try and eliminate the confusion and get a little separation there. Coming down, no changes to paragraph B there, with general requirements. And so the general requirements now pertain both to agricultural related and non-agricultural related. And so, one of the things that I did based on, Catherine Hutchinson's public comment about, the number of 490 farms in the area. I did put, the words back in there that we had on the first go around, which required, the farm to be a 490 farm to, take advantage of the agro-tourism regulation. The other thing we did there is, I raised the acreage back up to 10 acres for non-agricultural and specified a minimum parcel size of 3 acres for an agricultural use. And I think that was the only changes. Well, I guess one of the things I did to consolidate, we had 2 different sections where we had information on parking listed twice, and I tried to gather it all together to eliminate the unnecessary words there, but we're gonna go down to page 2. Subparagraph G at the top there. So the hours of operation that we didn't have specified in there before. The application talked about events on the weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I added the rest of the weekend there because somebody might want to do something during the week. The last sentence under G talks about subject to modification by planning and zoning commission to require fewer hours. Planning and zoning commission, by the way the words are written here, doesn't have the latitude to extend the hours any further than what's in here. And if, we found out after giving this some runtime, we needed to do that, we could change the regulation, but the planning and zoning commission doesn't have the opportunity to do that. Down in paragraph H, I added the words, between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. on all other days, again, gives the opportunity to have an event during the week. And then I think I changed where it talks about events and activities shall remain within state decibel limits. Again, I don't know, I wasn't able to figure out exactly what those were. It may include amplified sound if the applicant can demonstrate to the commission that sound via distant structures, landscaping can be attenuated to background level at the property line. And again, that does not mean that you can't hear it. That just means that on your meter, you don't see a decibel increase in the sound at that point.
I do have a question on the last sentence.
Okay, yeah,
What is that?
but the applicant shall include sound attenuation details. So it's gonna be the applicant's responsibility to maintain those sound levels at a background level.
I thought it was a test of some sort prior to the,
No,
just maintaining and having some kind of reading.
well, you have to, yes, you have to monitor
Yeah.
the levels of the property line to make sure that, you've got the volume switch on the equipment. Is that right? Down under lighting, if the events are gonna be held after dark, we do expect that there be lighting for the safety of the participants, and that should be in accordance with the regulations that we have on lighting. And I think going down to the health district approval, the last sentence is just sort of a typo. It says, and shall provide a copy of the approval with the permit application. What I gotta do, and, yeah, wasn't on that. I discovered that reading through later on, to cross out the word "to the," so a copy of the approval with the permit application that we get from the health district. Okay, go down to the last paragraph. So one of the things that we had in home-based businesses that I liked is there's, we can approve it on a temporary basis, try it out. There were some people in the public comment section that, were interested in that. And so I borrowed those words essentially from the home-based business and said, non-agricultural accessory special permit approval shall be issued for a trial period of up to 1 year to ensure coverage of the summer season, during which time the activity can be reported to the commission. It may be observed to make an initial evaluation possible. If you entered a permit in October and it was for 3 months or something, I don't think you have any events going on over that. So that would give us the opportunity to see how it's going before we make that permanent. And that is, I think, what I changed on your behalf.
Comments, just say.
Yeah, go right ahead.
And I just wanna put in a note, it's not an end all, but, I really think the 10 acres is a little too much. We already, I already explained that, because again, that's a minimum. I would thought a little bit less would be, better, but, it's not a, end all. The, other thing is the street parking. What do you consider street parking? Because I know if someone parks on the side of the grass, within 15 feet or so, that's still not their property. So is that considered street parking?
So what I consider street parking is if somebody parked on Bunker Hill Road.
Which they are right now, at the church.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, they're off the road, but they're on the grass. And again, I don't think it's a big factor for us, and don't forget, Bunker Hill is now it's a dead end.
Yeah.
It's very nice. But it is, not as much traveled road. I just wanted to get a clarification on street or, on the grass, 10 feet or 5 feet off the road.
Can I
Yeah.
answer that?
And,
I can give you a definitive answer.
okay,
Town easement exists to 25 feet from the center line of the road in each direction.
yeah.
Okay.
But,
That's
So-
not always, that's not always the case.
Street parking is within the easement. Whether it's on pavement or not, within 25 feet of the center line of the
Okay.
road, counts as street parking.
and my thought was most farms had sufficient land.
We do,
Turkey
we do.
was-
They shouldn't run into a problem, but some may, and again,
You
if we're
dream of that
going,
now.
huh?
You dream of that happening.
Well, we would be glad, that'd be great, hasn't happened yet, but we would. Again, at the same token, I'm looking at other things that are going on in town, and when I drive by my house every day on Tuesdays, that's not being adhered to. And that's all, I mean, I'm not one that's gonna complain, I have no issues with it, because to me, it's not a heavy traffic road anyways, and they're not interfering with anyone.
No.
So I'm not one of those.
But when you do bring the special permit or a site plan for review, we need to see parking
Mhm.
laid out, because that's gonna determine how many people you can have in an event.
Yep, and it won't, like I said, it won't run, we've had over 1,000 people for the events, and there's never been issues parking there. Not my
Is
events.
that for your?
No, that's for the Pocky Pocky, yeah.
Okay, no, that's good, that's good.
So we really have no issues parking there, so. Okay, I think everything else was pretty legit.
Okay,
Thank you.
there's a couple of things that I would have written different if it was my application coming, but it's yours. I think I have a good understanding of what you're looking for, and try to make the procedure, the regulation reflect that. So if you didn't have any other comments, Wayne, did you have any comments? Questions?
No.
Okay. Town planner, John?
No, I think this reflects, I think a decent combination of the applicant's initial intent and some of the comments that we received from the commission and the public over the last couple of months. So I think this is a decent, synthesis.
Okay. Commission members, and so I don't forget, I'm gonna start with Leanne.
Hello?
Eileen, go ahead.
Hi, yes, I have several questions, all pertaining to the noise and the hours. Mainly because that's the main thing that was brought up at the last couple of meetings by neighbors and people who could hear, the goings on. One of my questions is, with that in mind, I think a month or two ago, Jed, I think you expressed that you'd prefer to see amplified sound anyway, end at 9 o'clock as opposed to 10 o'clock. And Ryan Fitch explained that, sometimes for some of his events, by the time people get out of work, depending on what the event is, the later he might start an event a little later and therefore want to end it a little bit later. So that's not in here. I thought maybe 9:30 was going to be a compromise. I see it's now 10 o'clock, and it's also 11 o'clock right now. I believe it's just one day a week, but it's 11 o'clock in here for non-amplified sound. So my question is, how were those two things arrived at? And, what happened to the idea, which again, I think, Jed, you put forward, that maybe, and I think I might have suggested also that 9:30 might be a compromise, at least for the amplified noise. And another question is, in the previous two versions.
Leanne, can you give me two and I'll forget the first one?
Okay.
The issue about, again, this is Ryan Fitch's application, not Jed Larson's application. I probably would have put a different time in there, but it's Ryan's application and I know what he wants. And I figure we'll discuss that when we get to deliberation, hopefully later this evening.
All of it? Every change that we'd like to see? Or are we gonna talk about it right now?
Well, you can ask questions now, I don't want to get into, deliberation. That's after the public hearing is closed. Our goal at this point is to make sure we understand the input that we got from the public. And that includes the applicant at this point. And I feel that I have a good sense of the input we got from the public and understand, the concerns, the support, and that sort of thing. So, but if you have questions, it's a good time.
Deliberations.
But, she had some questions.
Yeah, so,
And I have the same questions that she does about the time. I know that it was stated that we were interested in 9 o'clock.
yeah,
Okay? And I was to, the start time on noon time, on Sundays it says, whatever, church gets out at 11 or 12, so I would think that it'd be after that point, to start time on Sunday. Okay?
Traffic starts on Route 6, or 1 in the morning, 2.
yep, we can just, when we deliberate, we can discuss what those different times are. I just put those in there, I added some times that I thought were reasonable for other days during the week and that sort of thing, and,
And
but I
on,
do think the crux of the matter is gonna be what time the sound security.
on line 87, it says non-agricultural, accessory special permit, if there's nothing that addresses agricultural use.
That's true, so since the agricultural related things, again, were more agricultural related in nature, I didn't think that would be, I chose not to put a trial period in for that. What I think the issue is, the issue I heard from both pros and cons from everybody who talked was about the sound. Now, I guess if we got a lot of, there was a rodeo. And, that went on at night. Maybe that is agriculturally related, might be a stretch with the Christmas tree farm, I don't know. Maybe we want to add that in there for both, this could have been, maybe I wrote that before I changed to require a site plan review for the non-agricultural ones. I don't know what sequence it went in there, so good point, we can deliberate that when we get to that point. And maybe if that's what the commission wants to do, then that's where we'll head.
Another thing is,
If I might, I think we're at the point where the questions are for the proponent of the application, aren't they? Sounds a lot
Yeah.
like deliberation to me, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we are, I know there's an interest there. And I remember a previous similar situation where I put Ann Cremay off until after we were done. And then when we got to deliberation, we were really in a hurry to get done or something because it was way late and Ann didn't get to say her piece. So I'm sensitive to that, but I do think, we're entering into the realm of deliberation and we'll make sure that we have plenty of time to do that. And if we don't finish it tonight, we'll continue that to the next meeting, if that's what we need to do. But Leanne, I'm interested in other questions that you might have, if they're not deliberation in nature.
Well, I can bring it up now and then, so that it's, people can be thinking about it. And then if you want to make it a deliberation later in the meeting, related to the noise is in at least one and possibly two of the earlier versions to do with the noise and the hours. There was mention of the hours did not include setup and takedown time for any given event. And that seems to have been removed from here. So again, just trying to be in keeping with the the main concerns that we have gotten in the last couple of meetings from neighbors was about noise. So again, the setup and takedown part seems to have been removed, and that could involve some other noise, albeit probably a lower level, depending on, again, what time things start and end. In other words, there would still be people talking, there'd still be car doors slamming. So I wonder if that was omitted on purpose, or if it just didn't get into this version.
It was omitted on purpose. Maybe it shouldn't have been, but as I was going through this, I was hoping that we wouldn't be out making a lot of noise, setting up and taking down at 3 a.m. I guess, so I've got that as something to take a look at. I thought that, when the concert gets done, everybody goes home. Certainly that could be discussed in the site plan review, the special permit. This is putting some. So maybe the right answer to that is to specify in the special permit or the site plan what the set up and take down hours are, so that they get done that. I don't know what they do with the fairs over there. I know they set up on the day, you know, the first day, and when that gets torn down, I don't know. But I did intentionally remove it, maybe not the smartest thing, that's why we have commission discussion on it, when we're done.
Okay, just so I hear you clearly, you say it was or was not omitted on purpose?
It was omitted on purpose. Maybe
Okay.
not the best move, but it was intentional. And again, my thoughts, I'm only one member of the commission, we've got, you know, 5 commission members that will kick it around to make sure that we, have in there what we need to. If that's what the commission wants, we'll put it back in. For making sure that it's covered, you know, under the site plan.
Okay, and I guess the only other thing I'll mention, which is more of just an observation than it's not a question, is that, you know, just to repeat, I know we all know this would apply all over town. This is, you know, Ryan Fitch originating this and et cetera, but again, I'm not completely sure, just for audience members or what have you, that people realize that this would apply anywhere in town.
True, yeah, and, you know, one of the things that, it could be, you know, some similar events going on over at the Yeoman's Free Farm on Andover Lake. So, you know, I know I wouldn't be ecstatic with that happening, but that would be allowed by this procedure. They'd have to go through the site plan review and all that kind of stuff. But yes, it does, and that's why I went back up to 10 acres. I specified a minimum size of 3 acres for agricultural related. That was one of Mark Francis' comments to me. He said, okay, I've got my 3/4 acre lot, I got my cabbage patch, I'm gonna go have the Cabbage Patch Festival. And, there's nothing you can do about it. And so I tried to, accommodate that a little bit. But we'll talk during deliberation about how to best handle setup and takedown. Good comment. Anything else, Leanne?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Anne Marie next.
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay. Kevin?
The only thing that I could think of pointing out at this point, other than what's already been said, you have the space requirements for the venue. And I just was wondering if you wanted to consider adding a distance from the venue to the property boundary. Because you could have something like 10 acres and you could just put the venue right in the corner. And then you'd be right up against your butters, but that was my only comment.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Kevin. And, again, I probably was, reviewing this application, knowing the applicant in mind. And that his little stage area is, well aware, but if we're
Right.
putting minimum distances for parking spaces, we probably ought to put minimum distance for the
It was just to make sure that the venue is not sitting
Yeah.
right. I know for this application, it's totally fine and there's plenty of space. It was just to Leanne's point, since it does exist throughout, since it's being added to the regulations for the town. If it pops up somewhere else, it might be something that people would want to consider at this point.
No, that's a good point, Kevin. And again, you know, one of the things that's sort of going on a little in reverse order than what we would normally do is, you know, the town has an application to change the regs. We get to carefully vet it and go through it all before we bring it to public hearing. Now we're trying to do that after the public hearing, and that's just the nature of how it went. So we'll do the best we can, but there might be a little more revision than what we would normally expect. Because of that, this is the first time really the commission has had a chance to weigh in on what we think is getting close to a final product. So it'll take a little bit, and I really appreciate the input. Anything else, Kevin?
That's all I had for now.
Okay, Patrick?
Well, we're trying to encourage agritourism and our small businesses but I did I did a review of our state sound ordinances
Yep.
and, anything from, let's see, I forgot the hours, but 10 o'clock at night is the cutoff for daytime sound level measuring according to the state DEP. And then, so we're in alignment with that, except if we wanted to go to 11, that's like a little bit longer. Also, they break this down into what's the land use already. Like if it's a class A, B, or C, A is residential, B is kind of like our mixed use, like full industrial. I'm just, paraphrasing. And are those the levels we're gonna be going to as far as our measurements if we go to have any enforcement, or is that?
We will be going to measure at the property line, no increase in background.
Okay,
I know how to do that.
okay, well, it just seems that the state's regulations are looser than what we'll be proposing. That's all. I just wanted to make a record of that.
Okay, that's fine, yeah.
And since we have no sound ordinance per se, we default to the state's rules.
Maybe we
And
should.
I just wanted to bring that into the discussion at this point before we,
Yeah,
that's all I have at the moment, but
okay,
might circle back.
yeah, Scott?
Well, the things that I mentioned already, and this would include 33 properties in Andover,
For the 10 acres or greater.
okay,
Yeah,
farm and not farm, right?
Yep.
And, yeah, the things that I already mentioned, about the time, eat lads on Sunday, noon time. And I was just trying to think of a way that we could change this so it wasn't so expansive, 33 properties. And if you did it to the, industrial zone, you put it in the industrial zone, then it would limit the amount of people that could do it. And Ryan still is in that.
he is. Most farms are not in the industrial zone.
Right.
And, I guess the other farm that I'm thinking that we needed to make sure the regulations would support was First Farm.
Mhm.
I'm not aware of a lot of farms other than, Hearst and Fitch, but those are the ones in Andover.
All I'm saying is it could turn into a noisy and,
It could. Yep,
okay? Just so everybody knows publicly, 33 amplified music going on now. It's possible it won't happen, but there could be 3 or 4.
I don't think 32 other farms want to lose money like I do on these events.
and you have comments, the questions?
I think most everything has been covered, and I would have asked, probably we'll just join in with the deliberations later.
Okay, Andreas?
Same.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up to the public here, and Baron, I see you're on the screen here, so we'll start with you.
Hi, how are you?
Doing okay.
Great. As far as the decibel limits and the attenuated to the background level, I just want you to keep in mind that living on Route 6, there's a time when it's kind of peak noisy and then it gets quieter. Usually it gets quieter at night. So it's not just one like solid the sound varies. So at night, it's particularly, it's, when you're hearing a concert, it's particularly amplified because that's the time of the day when you're more likely, living on Route 6, looking forward to that quiet time. So, when you're measuring these decibel levels, I think you should also keep that in mind, the time of day that you're doing it at.
Well, my expectation, Baron, is it would be measured, during the event time. So.
Right, okay, so you're,
I know that the noise levels from the road will vary during the event as well, but there's gotta be some kind of, it's easy to attenuate the music level. They all have rheostats on them, so you can
mhm.
turn it down, but somebody's gotta be out there looking, and we're putting, that's gonna be, one of the things that's discussed in the site plan is, the method of doing that.
Things like weddings, banquets as such, was liability considered at all? Such as, people drinking, people having a good time, then going on the road. I mean, how is that controlled?
I didn't consider that. I guess, Ryan, I can let you address it if you want, the liability from, alcohol consumption,
Well, we don't serve alcohol, and we also, obviously have liability insurance on the farm for people to come to cut a tree with a saw. So we carry our liability insurance, but again, is that a town concern? Other than having proper insurance.
I did not consider that a town concern. We've talked about that with other things and, went that way even when we were discussing liability over at the pickleball courts. And so, I figured, Ryan is a private property owner. He's got to bear that responsibility on his own.
Okay. See, I think that about covers it. I did, there has been some issue with smoke. I don't know if what's being burned back there, but sometimes, a lot of times there are occasions when there's a lot of smoke. Will that be going on often?
I didn't hear it.
Smoke. Yeah.
You're having bonfires or something, maybe?
Oh, yeah, we burn ballots. Or wood, in a huge enclosed.
Yeah.
Fire pit, and then I also have small little fire pits. There's a gas one, and then just ambiance, and a small little one that has covers on it for, and plus, for the warmth in there, if it gets later in the season, but.
Okay.
We do burn Christmas trees, say we cut a Christmas tree down, we burn those. But that's not that time, that's during the day, over and stuff like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Baron?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I trying to see up there on the screen that those are all the people that I see. I see Jonelle up there, and I think she's here for the POCD discussion. So at that point.
John?
John,
this is Catherine Hutchinson. I don't know whether you see me or not, but I'm here.
I see your name now. Yeah, I didn't see it before. Thank you for chiming in. Go ahead, Catherine.
Yes. First, let me just say that primarily what I have to say addresses the fact that this proposal, these proposed regulations, cover the whole town and not just Mr. Fitch's. And that's been pointed out previously in the discussion. But the fact is that I know when he filed his application, it was for 11 Bunker Hill Road. However, these proposed regulations cover the whole town, as just was previously mentioned. Also, I want to say at the beginning, it's important to note that I recognize that some of the concerns that I'm going to raise could possibly address, at least to some extent, by the references that are made in the proposed regulations to sections 23, 4.21 of the zoning regulations, and also with regard to the both amplified and non-amplified sound by the language in subsections G and H of the proposed regulations. It says subject to modification by the Planning and Zoning Commission to require a few hours. So I'm saying that, excuse me, with regard to beginning that I recognize that some of considerations I'm going to put forth may be somewhat dealt with by those provisions. The first thing has to do with the fact that the Public Act 490 obviously was an act of the legislature. And excuse me, under the statute, the definition of farmland means any tract or tracts of land, including woodland, wasteland used for agriculture constituting a farm unit. It is, however, the assessor, I emphasize that determines what is a farm under Public Act 490. So it's not going to be like the normal regulations that planning and zoning considers, that it limits it to a zone or whatever appears applicable to what they're doing, that the Planning and Zoning Commission have no control over what is designated as a farm under Public Act 490. That is the properties in town that would be subject to the proposed ordinance. And they apply, when I say that, to any property there's 3 or more acres because of the 3-acre limit with regard to the accessory use and the 10 for the non-accessory use. I recognize that. One of the existing 490 farms with 10 acres or more is on Hebron Road, directly across the street from where School Road intersects with Hebron Road, the old Percy Cook property. Is right across the street from the land owned by the town of Andover. Primarily located on School Road is what I'm concerned about, keeping in mind that the firehouse and the town hall and the community center, and most important, the school, is located within a very short distance from the already established Public Act 490 10-acre plus farm in that area. So that anything that is done during the school hours and the school day would be impacted by this proposed ordinance. There are other properties with 10 acres or more along Hebron Road that also I think the commission should be aware of, particularly with regard to, as you're headed out of Andover toward Hebron, on the east or the left-hand side of the road. That is basically an RRRD zone, but it abuts the Andover Lake District. There are some already designated 490 farms containing the 10 acres or more on Hebron Road, particularly in that area, as well as other pieces that are subject to potentially being given the 490 designation. And that's true of anywhere in town where there are properties, and I'm concerned, addressing myself now to the 10-acre, because the non-agricultural use has so much more in the way of extended, basically commercial operations that would be possibly considered to fit in that category. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because that particular stretch backs up very closely to the end of the Lake District. I think Scott mentioned he had a copy of the zoning map in front of him. If you were to hold that up, you could probably see how close excuse me, that the lake zone is, and some of the streets in the lake area are would be impacted by any of the activities that were anticipated or contemplated or permitted by the current or the proposed regulations. They're equally concerning is that right across from the from town hall, the school, community center, etc., there is a piece of property that contains between 4 and 5 acres that potentially has the ability to apply for a accessory use, Port 490, which would, in the farm designation, which would put them in the category of the accessory use, and not the non-accessory, but the agricultural use, which again still has a certain amount of noise and lighting, etc., right across from the school and the town office building. It's not yet, but potentially, but keep in mind, 490 designation by the assessor is a very fluid thing. Anybody can apply at any time. So there is that consideration. There's a large tract of land on Route 6 directly across from the library and the church and close to the Hop River Homes that also has the potential of being developed into a farm, used to be a farm, as a matter of fact, and be given 490 designation. There's another large tract of land on Long Hill Road, immediately adjacent to the church, behind the church, across the street from the library and Hop River Homes, that also has that potential. And that's the one that runs completely along, straight out to Bunker Hill Road. So again, the potential off, another one off Bunker Hill Road as well. Under the new version of the, again, concerning myself with the amplified sound, etc. Even in the 3 acre, that are considered to be the minor impact, is submitted that they are still going to be amplified sounds and lights and people coming and going and traffic and etc. So with the agricultural accessory uses, there's also some impact on the neighbors. And because they're smaller, it's submitted that that impact is going to be felt much more closely by the neighbors because of the proximity to what's going on, or potential proximity to what's going on. Also concerned about the hours that have already been mentioned, going on till possibly 11 o'clock at night on Friday, Saturdays, if you don't have amplified sound, but that's amplified sound. Maybe it's just me, but I've heard lots of music, bands playing, etc., that make pretty significant amount of noise, even though there's no amplification. And you also, again, have that consideration that I mentioned a minute ago of the traffic and the people talking and yelling and perhaps whatever might be accompanied, everybody having a good time at a concert kind of a thing. The other thing that concerns me is the Sunday morning for amplified sound starting at 10 o'clock. And I noticed that all other days of the week except Friday, except Saturday, they start at 12 o'clock. So the church generally runs between 10 and 11, and it suggests that you consider modifying those hours at least to start at noontime. So it would run like all the other days except Friday and Saturday, to run from noontime to 8 o'clock at night. Again, I suggest that we have to look at the town as a whole and the impact upon what planning and zoning does with this application or these regs as they are submitted, would have and potentially have on the town of Andover. I respectfully submit would probably be one of the most significant things that the commission did with regard to all over impact upon the town as a whole. If anybody has any questions they'd like to ask me about what I said, I'd be happy to address them. And again, my disclaimer is I recognize that some of these can possibly be addressed by the incorporation, which I think was a good idea, of sections 23, 4.21 of the zoning regulations, and also that language contained in G and H with regard to subject to modification by the Planning and Zoning Commission to require a few hours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Is there anybody else who's attending virtually that has not had a chance to comment at this point? Okay, Bob, your turn.
Okay, we come up there, so the thing can hear me better. I'm gonna steal a little of Ryan's thunder here. Since the last meeting, at the last live event that we had, Ryan and I drove around the neighborhood because we wanted to get an idea, since so much has been discussed about the sound in various places, and that's been really the primary push behind all of this. We drove up and down Bear Swamp Road. We also went along Route 6 and along Long Hill. He has a SPL meter. I have the app in my phone, so we took some measurements. The results were very interesting, I have to say. Along Bear Swamp Road, for the most part, you could not hear the amplified music. Because the crickets and cicadas and tree frogs and everything else were way too loud. They would ebb and flow, and occasionally you would hear some musical notes drifting through. The one thing that totally blocked out any sound, at least up in that part of town, were overhead airplanes. And I'm not talking about the Air National Guard and the C-130s that come through at treetop. I'm talking about commercial airlines, 15,000 feet up. They make a surprisingly large amount of, granted, it's white noise, it's not structured like music. And similarly, along Route 6, it can be very quiet and it can be very loud. You're talking about 80, 85 dB just with cars going fast. And that's, that's almost power tool loud at that point. So it was a real eye-opener, just how much it can vary. And I have to say, it makes me kind of like even more the language that you have, the background, not to exceed the background level at the property line, because the background level varies with place and time and circumstances. And it may work to the detriment of the fellow who lives on Route 6, because the background level there is a lot higher than the background level along Bear Swamp. And like Patrick noted, the general rule from the DEP is 5 dB above the background level in various places. That's what's permitted. And that of course excludes things like construction, where, explicitly you can be loud. If you couldn't, then nothing could ever be built. So I just wanted to throw that in, that, there's the objective side of this, that the neighbors are coming forward and saying, it spooks my horses or whatever, I don't want to listen to the music. The subjective, excuse me, but there are these objective measurements. This is really fundamentally a technical issue. And as such, it's no different than a boundary line dispute or a setback or any of the other things where you can get a subject matter expert and you can get measurement equipment and you can resolve things. And there's an existing base of knowledge, so to speak. And just a little digression here, and Jed, you actually brought it up. I didn't want to say it, but you brought it up, so I'm going to follow up on it, which is that this process has kind of gone backwards in a lot of ways. Because it started with complaints, I would have thought that either the commission or the complainants would have been, the burden of proof, the evidence would have rested on them. You know, if you're complaining about sound, then come forward with a video or with measurements or something to substantiate what you're saying, because this is a technical issue as well as a subjective issue. And we call this a public hearing, but you don't have the burden that a proper civil proceeding has, where there's an evidentiary process, or a criminal proceeding has, where you actually have to have evidentiary hearings. But it would have been nice, and I think if this kind of thing comes up before the commission in the future, it behooves you to try to follow that kind of a process. I think that the person who comes forward, it really, it's kind of on them to persecute this, to prosecute this, to push it forward, and not the the person who is affected by it. So I wanted to throw that in there.
Let me address that for just a minute, because back back in the day when you were on the commission and John Valenti was here as zoning enforcement officer, I remember the agony that we went through on lighting regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And we were about to make your jelly jar 60-watt light bulb illegal.
Right.
But the reason we took that on, at least at the time, that's what I used as a model, was people were coming to complain to John that about the light shining in their property. And so John went out and we worked as a zoning commission to try and create a regulation that would allow him to go out and enforce something later on. I definitely did not want to touch this regulation with a 10-foot pole. That's why, it was my goal in life was to get Ryan and the neighbors to resolve the difference, to make a compromise so that we didn't have to write this, because I know nobody's gonna be happy with the way it comes out. Everybody's gonna not like something that's in there. I didn't want to get in there at all, but we couldn't do that. We couldn't figure out a compromise. And so I'm put in a position of having to come up with the compromise form. I don't like doing that. That's not the way it's supposed to be done, but I'll take that on and run with it. But I did not want to regulate this activity at all.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the dark sky lighting thing, as well as say the lake runoff regulations. That's another thing that I think falls within the same umbrella of highly technical subjects. But on both of those, we did have the luxury of, this has been done in a lot of places. There's a real huge body of knowledge on it, and so it's interesting. It's reassuring that you're thinking of the same things that I am when we're looking at this.
Well, this is new, I read a lot of articles in the paper about the other towns agonizing over trying to come up with the acceptable, that both support the guy who wants to do it and protects the neighbors who live next to it.
Yeah, well, so while we're talking about that, and I'm gonna go back to something that I said the last time, which was, we have 2 or 3 neighbors who complained about this. We've had 20 or more people who have entered public testimony here for it. And so I really have to ask, how much is this an actual issue? And the measurements that I made would argue that the complaints are not credible.
Okay, since you put that there, I'll get into the record. When you made that comment about the vast majority of the people that attended spoke in favor of the concerts, the vast majority did not live next to the farm.
Granted.
There were way more people expressing concerns over the noise level than I thought there would be at the meeting. And so, I have to listen to that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wanted to just mention Kevin's observation about the distance to the property line, and considering that, I think that the language talking about shall not exceed the background level at the property line kind of makes the notion of where the performance is happening relative to the property line superfluous. What matters isn't distance, it's sound.
It might, but we'll deliberate that when we get there.
Yeah, okay. I brought this up before, I'm gonna bring it up again. This past Friday, we had a lovely event here. 100 feet away at the town gazebo with amplified sound. I walked across the street and made sound pressure measurements with my phone, 75, 78, 80 dB loud, okay? If this is passed, it needs to address amplified sound everywhere. Otherwise, it's selective persecution. I don't know the right word. It's selective enforcement. And you're gonna run into problems. Somebody is going to say, this isn't right. Why are we applying this to farms and not explicitly elsewhere? Why are we not applying it to the church that decides to have an outdoor service on, Easter Sunday morning and has a guitar with a little box amplifier? I mean, this could blow up. I understand you're not wanting to touch this, and I'm illustrating other reasons why.
Okay, for the record, how often does the town have a concert out there?
3 times each summer they've done it,
I think it's only 2 this year.
because it got rained out once.
Okay,
He got rained out a few times also, so.
this, I look at what the town's doing is a similar thing to, somebody who decides that their kid's getting married and they're having a party in the backyard. That's a very infrequent thing, and you tolerate that a little more. And again, we've gotta be, we can't regulate everything.
I agree, you can't regulate everything. Last time I spoke, I called myself a libertarian in the sense of Thomas Jefferson and liking a limited government. I'm gonna go one step further here, and I'm going to call myself, you're gonna love this pitch, a conservative. In that we shouldn't pass laws or regulations unless they are compelling. We shouldn't change the status quo unless there are good reasons, not just good reasons, but compelling reasons. And so I would have to say that on a large part of these proposed regulations, I oppose them. And I'll just go down on record as saying that that's all I've got.
I oppose them too.
Okay.
I wish we could have compromised and satisfied the people who were making the complaints, but we didn't do that.
It is within your prerogative to vote these down.
Any other? Roberta?
Stop time.
Yeah, you probably don't hear about that. You just wanted to share one, Roberta.
I'll add one thing, since
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll end it. And I know that, there was concerns on, different farms and different areas, and it seems like we're projecting way too much of what could happen as to, what is happening. There's been farms in this town for ever. And, it shouldn't have just took me, one person to come and to try and do things. I'm sure there's not gonna be much else going on. But in saying that, I think your plan of having a site plan and a P and Z having to approve it, actually just eliminated the concerns of what if in the future, because you do have control over that. So I think that, I know we spent a lot of time on that, but I think in this writing, they need to have a site plan, and then there's also special permits, and if P and Z can deny any of that. The concept of church, that's a bunch of crap. Just to be nice, I go to church and there's 15 people at church in this town. All right, and we end at 11 o'clock. So to use that as an example of why we shouldn't be having music because of church, I believe there's only one church in this town that runs on Sunday.
There's 3.
That run on Sunday.
That happened on
And, there's not, I don't think we should stop that for 15 people. The other thing would be, what Bob talked about too, is, we wanna be, I know we didn't want to get here. And I think he is right, that, we've done the legwork of testing and showing. I have it all on video, I have it all on email, that the music level is a lot, at the complaint Stonehouse is a lot less than every single car that drives by. And I have that. we went to Bear Swamp and we measured. And again, you go into people's properties and go on their deck, to see again, there was no music at a level that would even be remotely, worrisome. So I understand there are issues, and there are people that are gonna complain. But we have to take that as, wholeheartedly. Is there proof? Is there a history of complaining on many other things that are going on around the area? I think that plays a role too. The other thing I would ask is, I know we had complaints and we had some positive. Is that public record? Is that something that can be shared? It should be shared. Where the concerns are, who formed the concerns, who supported it? Is that public record or is that,
That is public record.
is that something that can be provided so that we
It's,
can?
it's, on the video recording.
What about emails and phone calls into town halls and stuff like that?
I don't have any, of that. If there was, if there were comments provided for the record with respect to this application, they're in the folder on the website.
Okay, perfect.
They're posted, yes.
Perfect. That's good. And, again, I was contemplating on, changing times and we can certainly lower the decibel at times like this weekend we have one. It's a one-man acoustic and it will be as low key as possible. And it's a town resident that is actually coming to sing. So this does bring people together. I'm still up in the air if this is something I'm gonna continue to do because it's really been, one, a nightmare, and two, it's not the most profitable venture that I've chosen. I enjoy it. But again, I don't know, if this town is the right place to hold these. And again, like you mentioned, I'm gonna bring back, the other day we were sitting at our house and I have a fairly nice house with a nice outside venue with a pool and and a deck and a patio. And my neighbor was having a party, eighth of a mile away down my driveway. Would never 1 minute think of calling and complaining about hearing his music or the fireworks. Because that's about being in a town and having neighbors. I grew up in East Hartford. I moved here for a reason, to get away from the hustle and bustle. But at the same time, I actually, when we first moved here, we were at our pool on our deck with my little kids. And I had 3 airplanes go right over my trees and hit my trees. These trees were moving like crazy. Again, this happens probably once a week. I'm not gonna call and complain. I have a dump right down the street that people drive by every Saturday and every Wednesday, constantly, trash falling out. Not gonna complain. That's where I think we need to look at is what we're hearing for complaints. Are they legitimate? Not every complaint is legitimate, not every, like you said, not every support is legitimate. But I think we need to weigh those in. And I don't think we should restrict our community from building a community and our businesses progressing. Now, I don't know, again, that property that I own is industrial. I know we're trying to go this farm route. I don't know what restrictions you have on the industrial part. Basically, that whole lot is industrial zoned. So I think we need to take that into consideration too. These houses, these people that bought properties on Route 6, right with industrial zone property right behind them. What were they expecting?
They were expecting to live next to a quiet Christmas tree farm.
But it's industrial farm. And they live on Route 6, 20 feet away from Route 6. That's it, that's all I got. You guys have fun.
The, any last minute, comments? I know I have heard, all I need to hear from the public many, many times over. I got it. What we do with it, we'll decide that when we get to deliberations. Is there anybody on the commission who is concerned about closing the public hearing at this point? Okay. Hearing none. It's 8:16. Public hearing is closed.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ben.
Oh, goodbye.
Okay. 8:16, I call the regular meeting in order. For the roll call and seating of alternates. All regular members are here, all alternate members are here. Thank you very much for everybody attending. I think this was an important meeting for you to all participate in, even though once we start deliberating on the agritourism, only those people seated on the commission will get to discuss at that point. Additions or changes to the agenda? Does anybody have any additions or changes? And I had two that I was gonna propose. One was gonna be new draft regulation changes, the bunch of stuff that we talked about last time. There was a couple that we didn't get to. I'm not gonna put that on the agenda tonight because of time. But I would like to add to the agenda an executive session for discussion of the gravel pit. And that would be right after approval of the minutes. So that would be the last thing that we do. I think there's some activity taking place over there at the gravel pit now, and I think we need to be able to talk about that. So I will make a motion to add new item 10, the executive session for discussion of the gravel pit.
Second.
Thank you, Patrick. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Ann?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Leanne?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Got you, Leanne. Then I vote aye as well. The motion passes 5-0. Under old business, first up is the special permit application of Michael Heckler. So the way it works, Mike, is the public hearing that we had is done. You get to participate no more. We just talked about you. You were certainly, here to hear all that goes on, and what always happens is there's about 5 things that I wish we would have talked about at the public hearing. When the public hearing's closed. We have to vote on what's on the record there. Right. I am hoping that all the members of the commission saw the draft motion that Wayne sent out with the agenda. I will read the motion. If we get a second to it, then we can discuss it in any more detail. And act accordingly at that point. I make a motion to approve the home occupation application of Michael Heckler with the following conditions. That the property, garage, and workshop shall not be used for the storage, maintenance, or repair of any vehicle or equipment not owned by Michael Heckler, his immediate family, or Heckler Land Services and Excavation. That the vehicles and equipment associated with Michael Heckler, Heckler Land Services and Excavation in this home occupation shall be limited to the following. 1 6-wheel dump truck, 1 pickup truck, 1 Tesla automobile, 1 mini excavator, 1 wood chipper, and 2 16-foot trailers. Vehicles and equipment shall only be replaced with an equivalent. Michael Heckler and Heckler Land Services and Excavation shall not store any fuel on site except for fuel in the vehicle and equipment internal fuel tanks. No hazardous materials is defined in Connecticut General Statute, section 22A-115 shall be stored on site. That prior to commencing site work and construction, a plot plan drawn to A2 survey standards by a licensed surveyor depicting existing conditions and site improvements be filed with the Andover Town Clerk and Building Department, with these conditions of approvals printed on the site plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ann, for seconding the motion. Any discussion? And I guess for the information of you, if if you did need to change the, the vehicles and that's a change to what we're approving the special permit, you need to come back.
Yeah.
And we would deal with that, depending upon the significance of the change. So not that you can't,
Yeah.
it's just that you can't without coming and talking to planning and zoning. Yeah.
Alright. Question?
Yep.
Is the exception that if he's replacing one with like, that's the third paragraph of this draft motion? Does he doesn't need to come get another,
If he's replacing it with a light vehicle.
He doesn't
it
have to.
Doesn't have to.
okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
That right there. Place me. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Leanne?
In the minutes from last month, it states that the, I have a bunch of windows open. The applicant, had asked for a waiver of the A2 survey, I think. I'm trying to bring it up now.
That was for
Yeah.
the purposes
Yeah.
of approving this special permit. I mean, for, the way I understood it, that was to waive the A2 survey for these deliberations. However, it does not waive the A2 survey for the ultimate site plan, which I have discussed with Mr. Heckler.
And Leanne, I think one of the concerns that the applicant had, he's been working on trying to get permission to do this for a long time, didn't want to put a bunch of money into, site plans and that until he knew that we were gonna buy into it. The regulations did allow us to waive that, and we did. But that doesn't mean that, he can't build what he wants to build without having the site plan and putting it on file with the town. So that just allows us to proceed tonight without having that in hand.
Okay. I'm not sure I followed that, but okay. It's
Okay,
because you
try
seem
it
to know.
slow. Yeah, so there's some significant costs associated with coming up with the A2 survey and the detailed plans for the garage that he wants to build.
Yep.
He'd already been turned down twice. And was hoping to avoid that cost until he gets the green light that says, yes, you can do it. And then he'll invest the rest of the money into the engineering work that needs to be done to support that.
Okay.
Did I do better that time?
Okay, so it sounds like you and Wayne are, I guess that answers my question. You and Wayne are satisfied about that?
Yes, we are.
I was just looking at the way it was worded in last month's minutes. And there was some mention in the minutes of last month about incorporating the wetlands. It says wetlands agent has reviewed site plan and suggested catch basin / dry well on property as well as silt fence during construction. So I wonder if that might be covered under Wayne's draft motion. Which I'm now trying to find again because there's so much stuff open. It just talks, there's some language in there and I'm not seeing it right now, but I think it might be covered in Wayne's motion anyway, so it's probably not a big deal.
Here's what I remember about that, Leanne, in that the wetlands agent did review the draft plan, if you will, that talked about the nutrient allocation dry wells that and I think you had a detention pond as well in there, but But he took a look at it again, and the sanitation guy took a look at it again. So we had those two people come back, and they both gave their green light to the project.
Okay, thanks.
Any other commission members have any other questions or comments? Wayne, I can't remember if we, I asked you for an input at this point or not. I think,
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
And me and Joe have gone over this, quite extensively with Mr. Heckler.
okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Ann? Scott?
Aye.
Leanne?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion passes 5-0. You're not done. Most people breathe a sigh of relief and say, okay, I'll go do what I want. Nope, there's some follow-on stuff. Get with Wayne, make sure that, we're getting all the right stuff filed, with the town and that. Good luck.
It's a big hurdle for these.
Yeah, it is bigger.
Now you get to hire the engineer.
Now I gotta start paying one.
Okay. Next up is the, application of Fitch Family Farm to amend the Andover zoning regulations. So I didn't think, there were any questions that we wanted to, deliberate on the first page. Based on, both Scott and his Hutchinson's, talk, that's why we put the 490 back in there. And the 10 acres and the 3 acres is just to, try and minimize, the number of things.
So we have John put that back up on the screen?
Yes, that would be good. John, if you could
Sure.
put us back on the screen there, that'd be great.
Okay.
Because-
This is again, going back to version 3.
Yep. Okay, so why don't you scroll down to, are there any discussion by any commission member on anything prior to where we get into the hours? Patrick?
Well, we are not gonna be putting any numbers on this except for the 5 decibels above background noise. Is that the constant background noise? Is that the, the highest recorded level on Route 6? I mean, these are some considerations I didn't even think about before.
So,
And also the state's the state's DEP decibel levels, I had pulled them up. I didn't mention the numbers during the public hearing because we never talked about numbers. But if this goes into being our new, in a rule, a regulation, excuse me. Then I think it's something that we should be a little aware of. Where I have a tab up here. Because
so-
like there's different, like
Yeah.
the 70 decibels is class C emitters, so that's industrial, and that's all the way till 10 at night. And that's a constant 70 decibels received from class C to a class C property, so from commercial to commercial. And then there's different ranges from going from that to class B to class A. Class A is the most restrictive residential area, and since we've now recognize that we don't have a traditional, this is just residential now, and this is just industrial or just farm. I think it's something we should just talk about for a second. So it doesn't turn into a quagmire of, oh, well, what's this decibel, and then turns into a big thing. I just want to address it quickly because I know the original intent of the regulation was to expand as use, as right usage or accessory use. But I don't think we really addressed the number, right?
Yep.
And what is the background limit that we're gonna say is the number in our town? Cause that sets precedent for the rest of the town. I'm just putting it there. And so I'm really hesitant at this point because if we have no sound ordinance per se, we have to default to the state's recommendations, yes? I mean, if we called for a noise
We can
complaint
put-
as far as somebody's,
Words we have in here
yeah,
have been agreed to by our attorney.
okay, all right. I just wanted to bring it up one last time and.
Yep. And so, but you're into the bottom of the paragraph that talks about hours. I'm looking.
Oh, the hours, I'm not concerned about the hours too much.
But I'm
It's just
looking
the
at
sound.
paragraph A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I
the
do.
state is at 10 o'clock, we're at 10 o'clock, except for one day, I think that's,
No, before we get to the hours.
Oh,
So
okay.
anything,
let me go, let me.
anything, look on page 1. Got any comments on page 1?
John, can you scroll back up to page 1? There we go.
Well, I'm sorry, what are you looking for?
Just to get away from where we were to,
I don't think. So when we went through and I listened to the comments from the commission and everybody else, I heard no recommendations for deliberation on the first page. So we
Okay,
turned the page over. In the first 2 paragraphs on the second page, didn't hear anything about that either. So now we get down to the hard, it's gonna be, now we're gonna take paragraph G, the hours of operation for uses and events that do not include amplified sound
Mhm.
shall not begin before 9 AM or finish after 10 PM, Sunday through Thursday. Friday and Saturdays are 9 AM to 11 PM.
okay.
I was okay with both of those numbers because I don't think they're noisy events.
I agree.
So 11 o'clock, sounds a little late. But if somebody were to have a wedding venue or something, and they were out there doing that, in most places that have wedding venues, they have it in a big tent. And that keeps the sound contained a little bit
Yep.
too. But I'm okay with it going, and if there's a special circumstance like it's, next to the church or next to the school or whatever, we get to make that call.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So we're good with paragraph F or G, depending upon which one you're looking at there. Looks like you
G,
can't tell which one's crossed out, which one's
it's G, it's new G.
G. Okay.
That's not so.
So now we get down to the heart. And to just discuss in generalities. I thought the point about the concert that we had here at the gazebo. Exceeding background levels, neighborhood property line. Fair point.
Mhm.
The other thing, I would say, I would almost be willing to get away with the sound measurements. If we cut it off at a reasonable time where people aren't trying to go to bed. I think the beef is, people are trying to sleep,
Mhm.
and there's music out there that doesn't put them to sleep.
Right, I got you, yeah.
Everybody's got their own good noise to put you to sleep, but I still think the town standard of 9 o'clock, great standard on the weekends, and I think 8 o'clock during the week, I heard some discussion about some things that went later. I looked online and, it looked like, out at the Carter Hill Farm, the bands are inside after dark.
It's different, yeah.
Different set of circumstances, so I'm very comfortable with the 9 o'clock for Taylor. You know, that can't be the end of the world, to just end, you know, he's talking about events that he does on a Saturday night. And I think 8 o'clock during the week is, reasonable too. I've gone to concerts over in Marlboro that, you know, they have them on Thursday nights and it's from 6 to 8. I think that works great, so. I just think if I were living over there, 10 o'clock's too late, 9 o'clock I can live with. Personally, my thought is that people don't move to Andover so that they can hear rock bands outside. That's not what we move here for. We move here for tranquility. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to, based on the fact that the town and the lake have concerts, and I would expect the lake to limit to 9 o'clock. The one concert they had this year, at least that I heard, was an afternoon thing. They were done by 6. It was on a Saturday.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm good with that too, Jeff. Okay,
Okay,
Thank you.
well, so you're good with that time. You know, we're gonna live with 9 o'clock,
9 weekends.
9 weekends and 8 during the week. How about these?
And you good with that?
So before you move on, what you're proposing to do is change the hours in line 57 from 10 PM to 9 PM. Is that what? Line 57
10 to 9.
and, yeah, line 57. Fridays between 12 and 10, Saturday 10 to 10. And okay, just that. You wanna change the 10 PM to 9 PM. Just
So in line 57, the 10 goes to 9. Saturday between 10 AM and 9 PM. Or Sunday between 10 AM and 8 PM. And between 12 PM and 8 PM on all other days. And again, I try to look at. I don't know what they're going on, what they have going on, but I was a little concerned about, you know, not allowing it to start till noon. But I'm not.
One thing I would say to that, when they were talking about churches, I mean, there is this religious freedom.
Well,
Our church.
Amendment to our constitution that.
It's over at 11.
okay, yeah,
I mean, are you gonna hear it inside the church?
This is my way of looking at this thing. We're not protecting the 25 people that you brought here. We're protecting this 3 don't like it. And the 15 people that are in church.
Yeah.
Okay?
and the couple of people that do.
Because if I was doing the same thing, I would have bought from 50. But it's not gonna do any good because we're not protecting those people that are all for it already. So we're not protecting them. We're doing the complaint and.
So Jed, to clarify, I'm sorry, are you changing both 10 o'clock hours to 9?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Both,
So
yeah, Indy,
that-
yep, there you got the second one, yep, 9. Right, that's at least for discussion. that's
Okay, right,
correct.
okay. I just want to make sure that I'm reflecting what you're talking about.
Sunday between 10. So I would be happy to put, we got too many different, you know, I would have been happy with weekends or this week is this. But if we made, we've got Friday a little bit different because. Well, Saturday's a little bit different because events can start early on Saturday.
Earlier.
I got you, so I'm ready to have Friday, Saturday, and all other days between noon and 8 PM.
8 PM.
Yeah.
Subject to modification. And I believe the same thing that you're saying. I don't think it's the sound. It's the lateness.
It's the lateness, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's why people don't give a hoot about the Andover Sportsman Club, you know, nobody's out there shooting at 10 o'clock at night.
That bothers us.
Okay, yeah.
Our neighborhood, it's very annoying.
Yeah,
We're not
well-
even close to it. We're over a mile away and
So-
still hear that. It's like, oh, they're that.
You know, so I used to live in Virginia Beach. And we had naval aviation at its finest flying around down there. And the neighbors were all upset because the Navy was flying these jets. And the Navy told them, huh, we were flying those jets long before you moved here. You moved here knowing those jets are flying, that's your problem. We need to fly. And that was the end of the discussion. The planning and zoning doesn't decide about the airplanes flying overhead, doesn't decide about the fireworks, which are already illegal. We're talking about events on a farm. We're not even talking about somebody who's opening a wedding venue, which, and when we first started talking about this, I was not a fan of, all these agriculturally related things. Brian was supposed to be doing the farmer's market all year. I don't think that, there's no farm related activity going on. All he wants to do is have concerts. And I understand his point of view, but when we were discussing lights over at the soccer field, we were trying to protect that one person who lived out there, that the soccer club wanted to shine lights across the field right into their house, So that's kind of where I am here, and should we, events and activities shall remain within state decibel limits? Yeah, just get rid of that last thing about me out there with my little meter, because I went out there with my meter too, and
What'd you see?
what did I see? Well, I saw at the Stonehouse, some pretty high levels when the trucks would go by there. 80 dB, pretty much what Bob was saying. But the later at night, those became fewer and fewer. And the vehicles on the road is a white noise kind of thing, where music is different. It's harder to ignore music.
So how was the decibel level?
What's that?
The decibel level, what was it?
80, when the cars and trucks went by, it was pretty high.
And what was it from their concert?
They did not exceed 80. So they were in that limit there. The thing that I think is a fair point
That's fair.
is I'd like to be consistent with this in what we expect from the town.
That's fair.
So if we were to just scratch that,
I would point out that and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, the town issues a permit to use town property to do events and stuff, right? So that's regulated by ordinance.
Not so much for
not
that.
the noise levels.
They still issue a permit.
Okay, but we're asking this guy to get a permit too, but special permit, which is even a bigger deal, so.
Okay. And then on this here, we're line 60, where events and activities shall remain within state decibel limits. And then line 62, sound be attenuated to the background level. To Patrick's point, that kind of conflicts with the state regulation, because the state regulation prescribes a specific decibel limit, whereas attenuated to background level is an on the fly or at that time type thing. It's a measured thing at that time. And it could be above when the trucks go by.
So again, being out there with my meter, what I saw was when it was very quiet, there was some increase in sound due to the music at times. Not a lot, but a little bit. But it was certainly when the traffic was headed down the road, there was no increase in background at that point.
Do you remember just, if this isn't like a, really definitive, but was it music less than 55? when there was no trucks driving by. And, you know,
I
so
I
probably,
couldn't tell.
right?
So
Roughly,
here's the two standards I know.
yeah,
Heavy traffic on Route 6.
Yeah.
80 dB.
gotcha.
I can get my meter out when I'm walking at 5 in the morning around the lake, and there's nobody but those crickets, and it's 40 dB.
Right.
So that's the range in there,
Okay.
and
In the States, 80?
No,
no, it's state 70
yeah.
max, so, you know, but that's not a
That's
planning and
constant
zoning
noise.
thing,
No,
those
right,
cars,
right.
this is, you
Well,
know, and if we wanted, if the town wanted to create noise orders, you know,
right.
the barking dogs drive me nuts. You know, I don't like your, everybody's got a barking dog anymore,
Right.
but,
We all agree that we don't really, not worried about the sound. We're worried about going to sleep.
yeah, I'm worried about going to sleep. So are we happy with crossing that last sentence out? Or should we expect the town to do something? Or do we say that the town is more in line to, a neighbor having a noisy party once in a blue moon, and, we're gonna live with that?
I'll just say this, my read of the last line as a zoning agent means that the applicant has to include some information as to how they plan on attenuating the noise levels.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean they have to do a noise study.
And they don't have to remove all the sound, right? So,
I mean, that's how I read it. It just says shall include sound attenuation details as part
Okay,
of.
well, yeah, I was looking at the wrong last sentence there. So,
They could claim that the trees and.
events and
natural
activities shall
vegetation-
remain within state decibel limits and may include amplified sound if the applicant can demonstrate the commission that the sound via distance, structures, landscapes.
To me, that's part of the attenuation details. I don't wanna muddy the water here, but that's
Yeah.
how I kind of read that last line.
No, I got you, I'm now, with you there, so I tried to, marry what I could measure on my meter and what, I thought it was reasonable that we kept the state decibel limit thing in there.
I don't know if the commission during its special permit process can ask for a sound study to be included.
Okay, well, let me,
I know that happens more with bars and things like that that are.
yeah, I don't think, I'm not in favor of that.
I'm in.
Okay. well,
So Jed, if I might,
yeah, go ahead, John.
so I maybe this would, I can square the circle here. If you could leave it, so events and activities shall remain within state decibel limits and may include amplified sound if the applicant can demonstrate to the commission that sound via distance, structures, and landscaping can be attenuated to respect those limits.
Okay, yeah, that's it, and what I'd like to do is hold the rest of the discussion on this in abeyance. I'd like to be able to think about that between now and the next meeting to, you know, that's really the crux to the whole thing, and, you know, I would like to have consistency between the town at the gazebo and what we expect of the agriculture. Not that it absolutely needs to be, but it ought to be, you know, seems if it's good for one, good for the other, and,
Except that this is specific to PA 490 property and the gazebo is not.
right, yeah, but, so somebody should ask me, if somebody were to ask me, why can the town do this, but this guy can't? It would be nice to avoid having that question asked.
Mhm.
And again, I think, you know, we're not gonna have concerts every day. Part of the special permit is gonna be how often it happens. But I think the issue is more when it's done, not how loud it is when you're not trying to go to sleep. But again, that's my thought, and I'm trying to,
Or the town could do this by ordinance.
yeah, I don't know. But I don't wanna spend any more time on that one. I wanna sleep on that, before we get there, but, you know, so we're coming through.
What about events that are non-amplified sounds at says 11 o'clock?
Yeah, what about it?
Do you wanna leave? Yeah, that sounds.
I mean, if you have a wedding party, sometimes those will be louder than a.
Well, we're not.
This is why I didn't wanna have to try and regulate this, you know, there's too many different things that are all going on. And this is why I put a 1 year. Now, we can specify that this regulation will be reviewed in a year. But any regulation could be reviewed and changed anytime we want, but it forces us to go back and take a look at, are we happy with what we got?
As long as there's no pending application.
I think it would be, I think it would be good to consider moving the non-amplified item from 11 PM to 10 PM for a couple of reasons.
Okay, you said there was a couple of reasons, Leanne.
Yes, one is that in the earlier versions of this, an even earlier time, and I don't remember at the time if we made a distinction between amplified and non-amplified, but 10 o'clock seemed to be acceptable, especially as opposed to something even earlier than 10 o'clock for a mandatory closing time. 10 o'clock seemed to be okay with the applicant, and 11 o'clock seems to be, in my opinion, really pushing it, which brings up the other point I was going to make, which I raised earlier about the item has been taken out so far out of this version about not allowing for activity setting up and taking down, which is what you'd be doing at between 9 and 11 o'clock at night. So there'd still be some volume associated with that, as I said earlier, just people talking back and forth and car doors slamming, et cetera. So the way it stands right now, that would be added on to the 11 o'clock time.
Could be. Yeah, could be. So my thought was, Leanne, that we would put that down under the paragraph on site plan. And put, as a required item, the plan for setup and taken down. So we get to hear when that's gonna be.
Okay, and that brings up another question, which I think somebody brought up in the last month or two. I don't think it was my question, but somebody asked, I don't know who, but anyway, whether or not the, let's see, any applicant, whether it's Mr. Fitch or not, would have to come in for a review every time they held an event? Or would there be a site plan review that would apply to a calendar that somebody submitted?
So the way I envision it is that the applicant gives us a list of things they wanna do. Just like the applicant for the home business, we had a list of equipment he has. As long as he doesn't exceed what's on that list, he's good to go. If he wants to start exceeding the number of events, or he's making arrangements for more people or whatever, he has to come back in and have a modification to the site plan. So this is not something that somebody'd have to do for every event, unless he were interrupting town traffic, so that we needed to look about getting the state trooper out there to direct traffic someplace or something like that. That's the purpose of that town permit, is to, make sure that the town is properly taken care of.
Okay, so that brings me back to suggesting that the 11 o'clock for the non-amplified events be moved back to 10 o'clock, especially with this consideration.
And so, how about during the week, Leanne, would you want that at 9 o'clock, or are you good at 10 o'clock on that through the week too?
Let me see. I'm reading it.
Because if we do 10 o'clock the whole bit, then, all the hours are the same. There's, no difference. It could just be, it won't begin before 9 and will be, or finish after 10.
So you're asking now what I think about during the week?
Yep. How long should we go during the weeknight?
Oh, okay, it
And
just moved.
if the answer is 10 o'clock, I'm okay with that too. I'm just asking, because you had some good reasons for,
John, we're seeing your pancreas order.
yeah, reminds you of a commercial on TV where somebody runs over and pulls the plug.
Sorry about that. I just got an alert and I was curious. Okay, thanks.
But I agree with, I'm certainly okay with reducing that 11 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We can, in what,
Both of them.
we can always,
I think,
we can always change it to be more liberal later. Once we start, we can't, once we approve somebody's permit under these regulations, it's good to go. And so, we can't crank down on it, so I would like to start out a little bit more conservative and relax after it's going well, as opposed to try to crank it back, because once we approve a permit, can't crank it back. We've approved it. So,
mhm.
So,
I suppose, 10 o'clock during the week is okay, as long as we get rid of the 11 o'clock, which again
Yeah,
seems quite
okay.
late. I still don't
Okay.
understand where the part about the setup and takedown is gonna be accounted for.
okay, so.
Is that part of the site? I mean, if it's part of the site plan review, so far, we're not saying that.
Right, we did not say that yet. We haven't got down that far. But that's where it will go.
So you can strike Sunday through Thursday, Friday, and Saturday hours of operation, 9 to 11. You can strike, you want to strike that whole line.
Yep,
Well, I thought we were just changing 11 o'clock to 10 o'clock.
yeah.
Don't need,
well, so if you read the first sentence there, the hours of operation for uses or events that did not include amplified sound shall not begin before 9 AM or finish after 10 PM, period.
Get rid
We're
of
not
it.
talking about what
Okay.
days.
I see. Okay, so we can still visit the point I was making a couple of times about the takedown time and
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
possible
yeah.
noise. And I have one more question about the next paragraph.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the hours. This is G and H. Why is it the start time now as opposed to the end time? Why is the start time for Saturday and Sunday at 10 a.m.? This is under amplified sound, may be allowed on Fridays between 12 p.m. and now we're saying 9 p.m. Saturday between 10 a.m. or Sunday between 10 a.m., et cetera. So why, do we know why the proposal is for 2 hours earlier than it is during the week?
Yeah, my thought was that people are out, willing to do events early on Saturday morning. And so we
Okay.
should be,
Saturday, how about Sunday?
Sunday. Friday, Sunday. for
Sunday, I see both sides on that, would,
Okay, well, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because hopefully with the, I'll call them safeguards, if you agree that that's a good term, that are built in about the decibel level and the, the commission has the ability to, there's the 1 year trial period. The commission has the ability, which I guess we're still discussing, to modify some of this. So I guess it's okay. I was just looking to see if there was a particular reason for the Saturday and Sunday being 2 hours earlier, but it looks like we still have some leeway.
And I guess, thinking about it here for a couple of minutes, I'm okay with the Sunday being 10 a.m. If we're in the vicinity of a church or something like that, and we want to reduce those hours, we have the authority to do that under that special need. We have to make a consideration. Is it gonna interfere with the religious services going on? And if it does, then we might want to consider that and make it start after. I don't know, it gives us a chance, but it doesn't prevent us, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, to start at 10 o'clock. Matter of fact, maybe it should be 9 o'clock on Sunday too. There's an awful lot of people that aren't spending their Sunday mornings in church and are out doing other things, but again, we can change that later. I'm okay starting it, but we have the authority with a special permit to reduce that. And that would be a valid consideration for why you might want to do that. Same as, an event that were taking place right next to the school. School's in session, we probably don't want to, let a bunch of noise go on out there while
That'll
the
be
school's going.
on an as applicant basis then.
Yeah, that's, we take a look at that, and that's consistent with what the words in there tell us.
Sounds good.
Okay, as long as we have that flexibility as we go along. And again, as you just alluded to, this doesn't just apply to, this applicant now. This would apply anywhere in town.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
So I'm going to sleep on that last little bit on paragraph H. And we'll talk about that next one. We got,
So after we're done, John will make these
Yep.
changes and we'll discuss a version 4 at the next meeting. Is that?
yeah. Paragraph on lighting. Anybody got any issues with the paragraph on lighting?
Stuff for safety, Brett?
Was that Patrick?
Safe, is for safety, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, because he hasn't expressed any urge to add big show lighting, so that's good. We're just addressing safety lighting, right?
Yeah.
Enough to keep it safe, that's it.
So,
But we don't wanna start,
but again, I'm only going with what I've seen there.
I like that,
We
but
didn't-
it's just for,
We didn't have big spotlights out
Yeah,
there
well-
again.
well, he has not expressed any want to add show lighting or big
Right.
lights and stuff, which is good.
Costly.
Huh?
That's costly.
Well, that's true too, yeah.
Yeah. But anyhow, yeah, moving on to the site plan. This is where we will include, the narrative description of proposed events and activities, including schedule for setup and tear down.
So you want to put those words in there?
I think so, yeah.
So I'm sorry, Jed, you want the wording including setup?
And tear down. So it'd be, right where you first have your first underline, a narrative description of proposed events and activities, including schedule for setup and tear down.
Okay. I'm gonna have to sketch that in. I can't type on this, but yeah, okay.
Okay, I got you. I will annotate that.
Actually, it's kind of
and
redundant.
their activities. But including setup and tear down.
Actually, lines, it's almost redundant, those two lines.
It is, but you know, I did take it out, I had second thoughts about that, there's probably, you know, other things. That would be helpful for the commission in making its determination. That we don't have in that paragraph and, but as we look at the application, we can ask questions and ask them. Any other issues on the site plan then? So one of the things that might be worth talking about here is we were talking about so the agriculturally related events with a site plan review. Essentially, we have none of this latitude that we do with special permit. If it comes in and it meets the time requirements, it's good to go. Like what we saw in Built Dollar General. It was under the size limit put in our regulations and, as long as they met our regulations, we couldn't change it, couldn't turn it down. But with special permit, you can. So. Just pointing out that we added back in, and that was one of the things that, we said we were gonna talk about here is. If that, if we want. All over the areas. I think we leave the words the way it is there, we'll find out, if we, normally through the course of, working with the guy, we get all the information we need. Might not be able to force him to do anything, but I can't figure out what that might be at this point. And again, a version ago, we didn't have any site plan review for those things, we were just gonna give the guy a pass, so. I think we've significantly upgraded from that, and I'm willing to leave that as it is for now. If we get bit, we'll change it. And then on the last page, non-agriculture accessory permit approval shall be issued. Do we want to include the agricultural in that 1 year thing? Any thoughts?
Just want to voice my opposition to regulating stables having horse shows.
Run that by again?
I just want to voice my opposition to regulating stables having horse shows. Or riding events or things like that.
Okay, but still, if a guy's having a horse show, don't we have a responsibility to make sure we got parking, sanitary facilities, all that kind of stuff?
If it becomes an issue, like parking on the town road and it's causing a problem, that's a law enforcement issue.
I think, there's
Well, isn't a horse show at a horse
farm.
That's already an allowed usage, we don't need to even.
It's not regulated under this regulation.
But that's not an accessory special, that would be an actual as right usage though.
Right, but it would require a permit
For,
for the horse.
Well, so,
I don't understand why it would be, I'm just, if you could clarify.
yeah, so I don't
Is it-
know.
Wouldn't the number of participants dictate the level of permit required? I mean, because
Um,
if you have, if you run a horse farm and you have a few people over, that's one thing. If you have a horse farm and you're hosting 25,000 people, that's still a horse show. It's just a different magnitude that the town would have some
Yeah.
interest in, wouldn't it?
I think, isn't that covered under the state of Connecticut allowed as right usage of agricultural land already?
No,
Isn't that folded in and
no,
encompassed under that?
no, the state has a non nuisance policy about agriculture. But that's about the agriculture itself. When you're bringing people in cars, that's ceases to
Okay.
be strictly agriculture.
do we have any horse
No, that-
farms in Andover that have a significant number of horses?
But I thought the state just did the newest one was. Is farms are exempt from their own, if it's actual, has to do with their farm, if it's educational or part of their farming. Those are already
Yeah,
accepted from
So,
town permits and all that rigmarole.
so that is, you know,
The
I thought they
state,
were.
the state regulation on on what is farming and whatnot specifically
Mhm.
states
Okay.
that, it does not override local zoning.
Okay, but
I
do we
can
need
testify
to,
to that because I worked for the Department of Agriculture for
But-
35 years,
do we need to start
so.
adding that in? I mean, I don't,
I'm just saying that, if you go right back to the very first definition,
okay.
it specifically says horse shows.
Oh, it does. I did not see that.
Yes,
Thanks
it's
for pointing it out.
like- It doesn't need special.
Agriculture accessory
yes,
use.
well, Wayne doesn't even like doing the site.
So we're allowed.
Yeah, I
I
don't,
think
Allowed to
The
regulate.
guys
if
who
it's a-
put the show,
but I will defer to the
yeah,
commission.
guys put in
I'm
the
just,
show,
I'm just.
I'm okay with getting the site plan showing where is the thing gonna be, and
Okay.
where are you gonna park, and all that kind of stuff,
Okay,
so.
All right, that's it, I said it.
Hmm.
What do you think, Scott? You want the agricultural accessory uses, be trial period?
Can you just say agricultural and non-agricultural?
We can't,
So we're back down at the bottom, John. To,
but we can't say agricultural special permits. But we can say agricultural, non-agricultural site plan. No, can't do that either, different.
you can say,
accessory special permit?
well, go back up to the
If it's-
definition, John, see, what is the definition? It's agricultural accessory use and non-agricultural accessory use. So now go back down to the bottom. I think the words you want are agricultural accessory use and non-agricultural accessory special permit approval shall be issued for a trial period of for 1 year.
Okay, yeah, so I agree with you, so that starts out saying agricultural. And non-agricultural accessory permit approval shall be for a trial period of 1 year. Now, again, with the site plan, if they comply with our rules. We don't have any latitude in that.
And that $50 fee will apply to both permits.
It'll be what?
And the $50 fee, the very last line,
Yeah,
will apply to both the permits, agricultural accessory use
okay,
and non-agricultural accessory
Okay.
use. Just,
yeah,
just saying, that's the way it's constructed now,
okay,
not that we have a way of collecting that.
I think I'd like to, put there for tonight, you know, if John, you would tweak that up the way we did. We'll get a chance to review it and we'll continue deliberations at the next meeting. But I think we've had a chance to talk about all the issues. And I think we've got consensus on what it ought to be and just
I just came up with a question when we're talking about agricultural accessory uses. You know, it seems like, you said the horse farm and a horse show are so close to the same thing. It's like, how can that be an accessory? What about a dairy farm that sells ice cream? Is that an accessory use then?
Selling ice cream is not agriculture.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so it's the major difference, and I think the thing that we're trying to get our arms around is when the basic agricultural use begins to engage with the public for one reason or another, and bring people to the property, generating traffic, generating noise, generating waste, generating all these things that are above and beyond standard agricultural uses, which is cultivation of the land and, you know, producing food and fiber. You know, bringing people in for a horse show is you know, it is not about raising the horses. It is about engaging the public in you know, an agriculturally related thing, but it's not agriculture. That's what we're trying to get our arms around. When it becomes, it's, you know, you could have, yeah, well, I've made my point.
I see what it is. Thank you.
And again, not perfect. Better than our sign regulations, but far from perfect. So, okay, everybody okay with that? You know, we'll hit it again for a little bit on the next meeting, but I think we got through all the issues. We got 99% of it hashed out. The thing they gotta think about the most is this sound level question. And
So 80 is our number, if the town is 80 across the street, that's gonna be their number? I'll be no. Sorry.
I don't know, I don't like it. I didn't want to write.
Well, you got it down to 9 o'clock, I mean,
Yep, I
give them 80.
Okay. I'm gonna move on to correspondence.
Oh. Correspondence or the cool shed?
Say again?
The cool shed,
Where's the bullshit?
new business, item B.
My new business doesn't have that. Oh, okay, so here's.
And not to jump back, Jed, but we blew completely past the POCD discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Mine doesn't have any of that stuff on it. I thought this, yeah. Maybe this is what you handed me when we were.
Yes.
Oh, we got-
That's probably what it-
Oh, okay. Thanks, Dan. Let me look at the real data here. Wow, there's more stuff on here than I thought. Okay.
Which red day we're using? You know what I'm
One
talking
business. You had one old business, I had one old business.
POCD.
Yeah.
Doesn't say much better.
You asked me to put that on there, Jed.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so here's the deal. The school program over at the elementary school wants to put an 8x12 shed someplace.
And we can pull up a drawing on the screen if you want to see it.
Nope,
Okay.
don't even want to see it.
Right.
So my concern, my feeling is that the 8x12 shed is smaller than the gazebos that we put over in the, what's the name of the place down the road there? The golf course? No, the, special service, the
Oh, network?
network, yeah. So when we did that, we said that we had two options. If it's The commission may by resolution permit the zoning enforcement officer to authorize minor non-substantial deviations from an approved special permit. Or substantial changes to the special permit and variances shall be treated as new applications for approval. And shall be submitted and acted upon in accordance with these regulations. So those are the two choices we have. We can either let Wayne take a look at where it's gonna be and all the, you know, the setback issues and all that kind of stuff and authorize it. Or we can ask for a new special permit with the shed in it.
Plus it's under 200 square feet.
Okay, yeah, it's.
So it's always the ZEO could just.
Yeah, so.
I'm just looking at it like a shed, like
Yeah,
any
no,
other shed.
I got you, so, then I'm glad you brought that up, and, so I would make a motion. That we permit the zoning enforcement to authorize minor non-substantial deviation from the approved special permit for the placement of the shed,
I'll second it.
okay? Thank you, Scott, any further discussion on that?
Is it, do they know where that's going?
There's.
By the basketball court.
It's here in the,
There, okay.
in this information.
Yeah, it's by the new playground they put out there.
They have a site for beautiful, drinking.
Okay, break it out for us, Wayne.
Yeah, you're gonna see it, it's behind the.
Okay. I was thinking the upper, they said this upper parking lot, because there's not that many parking spots anyway, but yeah, if it's behind somewhere, oh, yeah.
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 So it was,
It's no big deal.
yeah,
Anyone else want to see it?
any other discussion here? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Ian, Scott,
Aye.
Leanne,
Aye.
Patrick,
Aye.
I vote aye, all that motion passes 5-0. Okay,
Oh, Jessica's here.
Yep. Do you have any questions?
Jessica, oh, I'm sorry, Jessica, did we make it too easy for you?
So what do I do next?
Go talk to Wayne.
You've already done it. You submitted the zoning application, so.
And then I did the Highland thing tonight that I was asked to do.
Right. Eastern Highlands got to weigh in on it, and I got to run it by Joe, the wetlands agent. But it all should be pretty easy from here.
Okay, so you guys will be in contact with me then.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Well, and if you had to wait through 2 hours of stuff. to get that, yeah, I knew it was gonna be pretty easy, didn't know you were there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Let's go back to the P O C D. Janelle sent through all this stuff.
Well, she wanted to find out more about my pancreas purchases, so we kept her busy. Okay, so in brief, and yeah, my colleague Janelle is here, and we appreciate her sitting through this. So where we are right now with the POCD is that we have written and reviewed all of the substantive chapters to this point. And we are sort of nearing the point in which we're going to put everything together into a complete draft to send around in advance of a public hearing. What we added new over the last month is a summary of the survey responses, which I sent out, and we can talk about a little bit if you want, and the implementation matrix that I think is probably a little bit detailed to go through this evening, but I wanted to call your attention to it. I just put it up on the screen. It's fairly long. It's 13 pages. And this basically represents, there are 6 substantive chapters that we talked through. Quality of life, affordable housing, natural resource protection, economic development, complete streets, and climate change and resilience, those 6. And so each of those 6 chapters, which again, we reviewed over the last 6 months or so, had action items assigned to them. We have basically taken all of the action items, and let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see the layout and approach here. Is we have taken each of the action items, which is the first column on the left, added 4 additional columns, one for lead entity, so basically whose job is this action, supporting entity, who's supposed to help, time frame, obviously when over the next decade should we begin undertaking this, and the fourth additional column is cost estimate. And I broke this down broadly into order of magnitude cost, $1 sign being less than 10,000, $2 signs being between 10 and 100,000, 3 being between 100,000 and $1 million, and then $4 signs being $1 million. All of these things have been basically filled in by me and my team based on, you know, how we understood these elements to be. But obviously the very specific priority is up to this commission, because you are basically establishing the to-do list for the community over the next decade. So this is, you know, this should be considered a draft. Obviously, all the action items in the left column we've already looked at, we've already talked about. But this is essentially, you know, in shorthand, this is the to-do list from the POCD. So I'm happy to answer questions about the approach, or if there's some specific, you know, quibbles people have, but I would ask you to take a look at this over the next couple of weeks and send any thoughts or comments to me. I'll take this off the screen. I can put it back in just a second, but I want to sort of get through the big picture here. The overall goal was to look at adopting this plan by the end of this calendar year, which means December. We need to basically have the draft done and in place 2 months ahead of the public hearing, so that we can send it around to the Office of Policy and Management, to the Board of Selectmen, post it with the town clerk, and make sure it's available as a full draft to the public. You know, it doesn't have to be the final layout with all the pictures and the, you know, the final desktop publishing, but the content should be all in place. Again, we have basically all of the content in place because we'd sort of written the chapters as we go. The question I have for you is, between tonight and the next meeting in October, which hopefully we can present to you the complete document of text, again, not the final layout, but the plan itself, the document, for basically receipt and scheduling of a public hearing. And my question for you is, what would be the preferred method for giving you guys the chapters to take another look at? I could send it all as a single package, or if you'd like, I could send you, you know, 2 chapters a week over the next month, so you have some bite-size opportunity to kind of digest. But we're basically at the point where we're going to be stitching it together and giving it to you as a package for receipt at your October meeting.
So how many chapters were there? Was it 6, you said?
There are 6 substantive chapters. I forwarded on Thursday or Friday, whenever I sent this stuff around, I sent, I believe, the introduction section that included sort of the background about, like, what is a POCD, what you know, what are the requirements, the background demographics, or, you know, what our housing, our population, that sort of thing, the introduction chunks. And then there are, so that's like 2 or 3 chapters, depending on how we define it. Then there are the 6 substantive chapters, and then there's the implementation. So it's, I don't know, call it 10 chapters.
Okay. So I guess, you know, when we were talking the other day, I liked the thought about a chapter a week, and we review through it, and it's not so overwhelming. Maybe it needs to be 2 chapters a week. If we got 10 total chapters, and anybody got a better way than that. I mean, some of them are pretty kind of short, should be pretty smooth read at this point. Yeah, we've already talked about it, got the tweaks, but and that doesn't mean that it can't be changed again. You know, we've got a public hearing to go through and we can change it based on the things we learned there. And that sort of thing. But if we don't, we ought to have a chance to read it again before we put it up on the website for the public to say, this is our big document that takes us through the next 10 years. So anybody not okay with 2 chapters a week? Maybe you can marry up a long one and a short one so that
Okay.
we don't get, you know, 2 long ones together or something.
Yeah, we can give you the conservation chapter in 1 week and then everything else the following week, because that's sort of the division of length. But yeah, we'll give you two appropriate bite-sized pieces.
I guess the other thought I had on the implementation matrix, you said that it was long. And boy, that was my thought. You know, there's a bunch of stuff there. And if somebody were to ask me, okay, so what's your top 3? I'd be hard pressed to do that looking here. And I was thinking it would be nice for conservation, economic development, complete streets. You know, whoever the lead is for those chapters, we ask them to go back and with their team. Sometimes there's a team, sometimes there's not. Economic development, they got a group that they could look at. But if they were to say, here's my top 3. And then it would be nice, you know, we've got this cost estimate thing, it would be nice to have a priority list. And you know, I'm thinking 1, 2, or 3, you know, priorities, high, medium, low, whatever. And you know, if we got a high priority, low cost, boy, those are the ones we're gonna go after quick. But we've got to have a priority listing, and then we've got to have the top 3 things that, you know, we want Andover to be. And there's some that we're gonna have to do is our group. Like probably a quality of life one, I think that's gonna be ours to do, but it would be nice to get input from the different leaders of things on what their top 3 are, and then just prioritize each of these things as high, medium, and low priority, I guess is the most self-explanatory as opposed to going 1, 2, 3. Any thoughts on that thought?
Well, and to a certain extent, I mean, we can do that distribution, and we'd have to probably talk about exactly who should get copies of this. But in many ways, the public hearing is also an opportunity to get that sort of input, you know, from the general public or some other stakeholders that say, oh, you know, like you're calling this out for, you know, you don't have to get started on this for 4 or 5 years. We really like you to get started on this right now. And so like during the public hearing, that input can be sort of received and digested also.
Yes, we will get some of that, but if we don't take the first crack at that ourselves, I think we're, you know, when we go up to brief that, you know, somebody should say, okay, well, what's the big deal things that, you know, what do we really want to do here? You got 9 pages of, 12 pages of action items, you know, what I would like to make sure is that the next time we look at this action item thing is in 10 years from now when we get ready for the next one. Then I thought planning and zoning did a very good job of fighting through, you know, all the recommendations from the last one and put the changes into the regulations that were there. And I think that's gonna be very important for us to do. But some of these other things, you know, I think it's important that we know what the big tickets are so that we can write a little lead in and say something about that, you know. So that, I guess Eric's gonna do complete streets. Patrick's gonna do economic development. Hank is gonna do conservation.
And I'm sorry, Jed, so is the idea to just check the priorities or to pick off the top 3, top 5, something like that, and flag them?
So both top 3 and prioritize the bunch of actions that they got, high, medium, or low. Because, you know, economic development could come in and say, your battery is running low.
Wait, that's my battery running.
Oh, okay,
Probably gonna plug it in.
My battery's fine.
yeah,
I got no place.
we doing there, are we going red? But,
Hey, it'll be all right till I get back from the charger.
and then maybe John, you, me, and Eric are gonna have to do some work on this, on some of these things, It may be Eric's, that's unfair to expect him to do it, he's got his plate very full. Maybe it's just you, me, and you and me have to get together and go through some,
Yeah, we can do that.
okay?
So yeah, so all right, so we'll, but broadly speaking, we will start distributing a couple of chapters a week
Okay.
between now and the next meeting.
Yeah, I was gonna make fun of the economic development, I know their number 1 priority is gonna be to move the public works over to the transfer station. And that's gonna be the high dollar sidewalk, that's what I'm saying, yeah, we'll see how,
That's what really.
Oh, geez. All right, they're gone. Let me pause the. All right, we can't see you yet, but
Where's the
but
remote
everyone
boost?
seems active.
It's
here. Testing, John. Can you hear
Yep,
us?
I can hear you. We can hear you. Can't see you, but we can hear you.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, I don't know what my computer takes from laptop. Okay. Get it through the camera and something.
Oh, yeah, video.
There you go.
All right, there we go.
Okay. Well, based on the technological challenges here, we're going to now do a couple of things, but, how about the zoning agent report?
Okay, let's see, cool shed zone change, I noticed at 12 Center Street, they started framing, finally. Finally.
We got a foundation?
Yeah, foundation's been there for a while,
Okay.
framing's going up. If that's news, then I went out to our Pine Ridge,
What's he building?
just a residence,
Okay,
as far as I know.
well, so,
That was something that Jim brought me to early on, pointing it out,
yeah,
and I drove by,
well, I
been by
know
it a few times.
we wanted to build a duplex,
We can't build a duplex in town.
that's why I asked the question. So. Okay,
Went by, went over to Pine Ridge, George Carrera. And, I know Scott's been over, he did remove or he did smooth out the wood chips and stuff as had been discussed. And pulled back the fill that he pushed down over the embankment in the southeast corner, southeast corner. And exposed the pin that marks the corner of the lot, although it's above the ground by about an inch, I'd say.
I looked at it, it's underground. That's because the water's still coming off the hill right on top of it, it's
Yeah,
covering it up.
he did, because, I mean, it does have silt fence above it, below it.
He's supposed to have a whale in there to move the water.
But right now, the silt fence is kind of in the way.
No water's supposed to go on somebody else's property, your water's supposed to stand there. He's supposed to have a swale that takes it off that,
Oh, that's right, okay.
you can see where it's coming through the ENS. And down, right on top of it, and it's covering up the.
Okay, so he needs to pull back even farther than.
Well, he needs to put that swale on.
Right. Forward. All right. So that's that. And that's my report. There's something else I can report on, but I believe we're having an executive session for that. Or maybe not.
Maybe not, we're getting pretty late in the evening here, right, yeah. I'm having second thoughts on that, but,
Okay.
there's nothing to report from the inland wetlands water course agent. And so we're up to town planner.
I don't have a ton additional to report other than what we talked about. I did have participated in the last couple of weeks, a few transportation safety and transportation priority meetings along with Eric and members of CROG. So we identifying again for long-term planning purposes, identifying priority intersections, priority improvements. And we, Eric and I went through a lot of that. They're also going to be this Thursday a staff level meeting in Eric's office about the kickoff of the design project for the trail that's going to connect the town hall complex with the airline trail overland, not the Routes 316 lot zip plan, but the multi-use trail that's going to go through the backland and connect up with the Hop River Trail. So that design is going to get kicked off on Thursday. That design is grant funded. We got a grant from DEP Rec Trails. So that's all I have additional.
Okay, thanks, John. Next up is public speak. Ms. Hutchinson, you have anything else for us at this point?
No, I don't. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bob, anything else?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay. Approval of the minutes. I make a motion to approve the public hearing and regular meeting minutes from Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. Okay, any comments on the minutes?
Just one small thing.
Yep.
Under 9C, town planner, et cetera, the second line says along Route 6 and the Op River.
Oh, yep, okay, should be Hop River there, yep.
I was using my Cockney accent at the time.
Anything else, Leanne?
No.
Okay. So I'll modify my motion to approve the public hearing and regular meeting minutes from Tuesday, August 19th, 2025 as amended. And seconds. Any further discussion? Calling for a vote, Ian? Scott?
Aye.
Leanne?
Aye.
Patrick? Abstain. And I vote aye as well. Motion passes 401 Patrick abstaining. Okay. I guess, well, even in spite of the, lateness, given that there is activity, going on over at the, gravel pit, I will make a motion to, enter executive session for the purpose of discussing the gravel pit. Attendees would be all commission members, town planner, zoning enforcement officer.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing
I'm sorry,
none, call
Jed,
for
I'm sorry,
Dan.
Jed.
Yeah.
Sorry, one quick element of discussion, just logistically, if I might ask Catherine if she would prefer to stay on and we will return to the regular session right before adjournment, or the adjournment is the only thing left. I would ask perhaps that Catherine would excuse herself and we don't have to go into a separate breakout room. We'll just stop recording. But if Catherine, if you'd prefer to stick around, we'll go into a room.
Will there be any action or report or anything done after the
There will not
executive
be,
session pertaining to
there will not be
the,
anything, any action taken.
and no
No.
discussion that I would be interested in, correct?
That's right, yep.
Then, yes, if all I need to do is just log off, sign out, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Okay.
yep.
All right. Yes, I will do that right now and then test to make sure I've gotten out because now I have to find, oh, all right, leave meeting, right?
Correct. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Catherine.
That's not a problem. Thank you.
Good evening. All right, so Jed, I interrupted the vote. That we're still on, that was discussion. You need to call the motion and I will turn off the recording.
Okay, I can't remember, do we vote, here we go.
Motion made and seconded.
Ian? Scott? Leanne?
Aye.
Patrick? Aye. And I vote aye as well, the motion passes 5-0. Okay, well, thank you all very much for hanging in there tonight. It's way later than I thought we'd be.
What, I'm sorry, Jed. It may just be worthwhile noting that you've returned out of executive session at 10:12 and no actions were taken.
Okay, very good. I think you just, yeah, got that in the record. Thank you, John.
Yeah, yep.
And then, next meeting is October 21st, to be held as a hybrid meeting. And I'll make a motion that we adjourn. In seconds, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you all for attending tonight. More fun to follow.